Oh, Diego, welcome. Oh, Metika, Gregory. How's voice? How's video? Everything coming in? All right, very good. This morning and during morning monastery experience, we had an interesting experience. The stream was just destroyed by YouTube in the middle of the stream this morning. I was chanting, and all of a sudden the stream just dies, just stops. And I thought, oh, well, did YouTube like crash on my phone or anything? I was like, no, nope, it just stopped. For what reason? Who knows? So if the same thing happens during Dhammapalooza, you know what happened. Although I suppose technically my computer, it's probably easier for my computer to crash than my iPhone. But that's the way it goes. Hello, John and Audrey. Welcome. Mara interfering. Well, you know you can't really trust these places. Uh, you might have came later, but there was a time where the channel was literally banned and deleted. It was like a year and a half ago, maybe. Just woke up one day and it was gone. The whole channel that I've been using for since what 2012 just deleted. Your account has your channel has been deleted. I was like, what? Yeah. Of course, I obviously it's back obviously, but like within a week it got deleted twice. For what reason? I still don't know because they don't tell you. It's just the way it goes. So you're always at the whim of the tube. All right. Welcome those who are joining. We'll give it another minute or two. Let's bring up the chant. Where are we at here? Okay. Hello, Dharma learner. You made it on time tonight. Very good. Maybe just on time to see the stream get exploded. We'll see. It's 5 minutes after, so I think we can get started. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Evang me sutang ekang samayang bhagava savattiyang viharati jetavane yanata pindakassa arame. Tatra ko bhagava bhikkhu amantesi bhikkhavoti badante tite bhikkhu bhagavato pachasso sung bhagavae taddavocha. Mettaya bhikkhave chetu vimuttiya sevataya bhavitaya, bahulikataya, yanikataya, vatukataya, anutitaya, parichataya, susasamaradaya, ekadasaya, anisangsa, patikanka, katame ekadasa, sukang supati, sukang patibujjati, napapakang supinang pasati, manusanang piyohoti, amanusanang piyohoti, devata rakkanti, nasa aggiva, visangva, sattangva, kamati, tuvating chittang samadhyati, mukkavano, vipasidati, asamulho kalang karoti uttaring appativajanto brahmaloku paggohoti mettaya bhikkave chetu vimuttiya asevataya bhavitaya bahulukataya yani kataya vatukataya antutitaya parichittaya susamaradharya ime ekadasani sangsa patikankati idangavocha bhagava attamanate bhikkhu bhagavato basitang abhinandunti. All right, English. Discourse on the benefits of loving friendliness. Thus have I heard, on one occasion the Sublime One was living in Savatthi, at Jeta's Grove, in the park of Anathapindika. There the Sublime One addressed the bhikkhus thus. Bhikkhus, venerable sir, they replied. The Sublime One said this. Bhikkhus, there are 11 benefits from the practice of loving friendliness that arise from emancipation of the heart. If repeated, developed, made much of, made a habit of, made a basis, experienced, practice, well undertaken, 11 benefits are expected. What 11? One sleeps well, one gets up well, one does not have nightmares. One is pleasing to human beings, one is pleasing to non-human beings. The deities protect one. Neither fire nor poison nor weapon affect one. One's mind becomes calm immediately. One's complexion brightens. One dies without confusion. And beyond that, if one does not comprehend the highest, one goes to the world of the Brahmas. Bhikkhus, these are the 11 benefits from the practice of loving friendliness that arise from the emancipation of the heart. If repeated, developed, made much of, made a habit of, made a basis of, experienced, practiced, well begun, these 11 benefits are expected. Thus spoke the Sublime One, delighted. Those bhikkhus rejoiced in what the Sublime One had said. Sad. All right. Okay, friends. Well, welcome. It is Monday night. That means it is time for the 2-hour Festival of Dhamma of the Maggasekha community, Dhammapalooza. How will Dhammapalooza go today? Well, we'll have to see how it goes. Because every time we do Dhammapalooza, it's different. This is because it's community-led and community-guided. Right? It could be that I could just come on for 2 hours and just, choose exactly what I'm going to say and then just do that. That's kind of boring, though. And to be honest with you, it's also not challenging. I like it when I get challenged and have to think and contemplate things on the fly. So for the next couple of minutes, if you have any questions, if you have any topics you'd like me to talk about, or the community to talk about, right? Questions, anything like that, you can feel free to put them in the chat. Of course, I always have a sutta on the back burner ready to read. I also do, though, since we are coming up on the holidays, it's on Christmas and Hanukkah and all that. I have something I like to read. I break it out every year about Ajahn Chah on Christmas. So we'll go over that. Say hello, Yankee Apple. Welcome. Dharma Learner. I don't know that I'll be on YouTube with Bhante Rahula. We'll see. We'll see how that happens. He does know about Dhammapalooza. Because off the cuff, he said something to me like when I spoke to him. He says, "Oh, how's Dhammapalooza doing?" Like, okay, it's good, Bante. It's like, okay, but hello, Jake, welcome. But yeah, middle of middle of January to probably the end of February, I'll be with Bante Rahula at Line of Wisdom. Probably won't be able to do morning monastery experience while I'm there. We'll see. It's possible. All right. So let's while anybody has any questions or anything, waiting for the chat to move, let's bring up the this is an old for those of you who are not old hats with me, you might never have seen. This is going to be a blast from the past. Before I had a website, before everything, I had a Tumblr. I was on Tumblr. This was my Dhamma blog, my journey into homelessness blog. It's still there, but I've pretty much transferred everything that I deem to be important over to the main website, like articles and things like that. Although, except for this one, I haven't done this one because I knew I had done this article, but I thought I had it on the website, but I don't. But thankfully, Google had found me this one. Hello, Josh. Welcome. So, this is a time that it's an interesting time, especially for, well, it's a interesting time for Buddhist converts, right? People who are maybe Christian or, grew up in an area where, kind of things like Christmas is very dominant. Um, or again, we can include Hanukkah and different traditions and things like that, pagan stuff for the time of year, all that kind of stuff. And we might. This is why I'm thinking like, should I do my normal stuff next weekend? It's Christmas weekend, and I'm like, probably could, but most likely nobody's going to show, or very few people are going to show. And reason being is because even though we might be Buddhists, we still have family members who are not, and maybe they gather for Christmas, so we go with them and all these kind of things. And so this is kind of a good opportunity, I think, to bring up like interfaith dialogue and working with and being with people from different traditions, right? Different religions, things like that. And I think Ajahn Chah points to something here that I always the kind of my method of working with interfaith dialogue. It's a beautiful, beautiful message. I always like to bring this out every Christmas. So Ajahn Chah and Christmas. There's two excerpts here. All right, and that's just my thing here. It was Christmas, and the foreign monks had decided to celebrate it. They invited some lay people as well as Ajahn Chah to join them. The lay people were generally upset and skeptical. Kind of makes sense. I mean, you're in a foreign country, you're a Buddhist, but you want to celebrate Christmas. I can get why some Thai people wouldn't be too a big fan of that. Why, they asked, were Buddhists celebrating Christmas? Ajahn Chah then gave a talk on religion in which he said, as far as I understand, Christianity teaches people to do good and avoid evil, just as Buddhism does. So what's the problem? However, if people are upset by the idea of celebrating Christmas, that can be easily remedied. We won't call it Christmas. Let's call it ChristBuddhamas. Anything that inspires us to see what is true and to do what is good is proper practice. You may call it anything you like. Now, see, the wisdom here is important. right? This is not this kind of message where we're like, well, all traditions, all religions lead to the same point and all these things. Because that's kind of like, I don't know, like new agey, hippie kind of feel goodism. I don't think that's accurate. I don't think that's true. But what Ajahn Chah is pointing towards what the religions have in common, right? All religions, all wisdom traditions have in common ethical, virtuous action. And so Ajahn Chah here is pointing to, well, in Christianity, they teach people to avoid evil and do good. In Buddhism, it's the same way. What's the problem? Right? So that's the message of coming together on what is similar, right? Instead of bickering and dividing each other over what's different. So my mindset in this way is coming together on what's similar and respecting the differences, right? We don't have to kind of fight, over, I was like, oh, well, this is better, that's better. No. This is what is universal, right? I did just recently, last weekend, we did the talk, the retreat on generosity, goodwill, and gratitude. Dana, Metta, and Katanyuta. And I just was on a Zoom with a Colorado group, and I was giving a talk on the same topic. And I said in both that this is not the dominion of Buddhism alone, these three things. Right? All religions and faith traditions teach for people to develop these, because we know that this is a way that makes us better human beings. And so this is a wonderful message from Ajahn Chah, ChristBuddhamas. I like it. And now the second one. This is from a Q&A. Then is Buddhism much different from other religions? It is the business of genuine religions, including Buddhism, to bring people to the happiness that comes from clearly and honestly seeing how things are. Whenever any religion or system or practice accomplishes this, you can call that Buddhism if you like. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of in the suttas where the Buddha says that in any doctrine and discipline that you will find the Noble Eightfold Path, you will find awakening. Right? So it's kind of like a backhanded thing of saying like, well, you only find the Noble Eightfold Path in Buddhism. But on the other hand, it's also kind of like, well, if they're following the same path, they're doing the same work, they're going to lead to the same destination. That's a kind of a funny thing there. But anyway, in the Christian religion, for example, one of the most important holidays is Christmas. A group of Western monks decided last year to make a special day of Christmas with a ceremony of gift giving and merit making. Various other disciples of mine questioned this, saying, if they're ordained as Buddhists, how can they celebrate Christmas? Isn't that a Christian holiday? In my Dhamma talk, I explained how all people in the world are fundamentally the same. Calling them Europeans, Americans, or Thais just indicates where they were born or the color of their hair. But they all have basically the same kind of minds and bodies. All belong to the same family of people being born, growing old, and dying. Siblings in suffering. Right, this is what you hear me talk about, how we're all siblings in suffering. This is Ajahn Chah basically saying the same thing. When you understand this, differences become unimportant. Similarly, if Christmas is an occasion where people make a particular effort to do what is good and kind and helpful to others in some way, that's important and wonderful, no matter what system you use to describe it. So I told the villagers, today we'll call this ChristBuddhamas. As long as people are practicing properly, they're practicing Christ Buddhism, and things are fine. I teach this way to enable people to let go of their attachments to various concepts and to see what is happening in a straightforward and natural way. Anything that inspires us to see what is true and do what is good in proper practice. You may call it anything you like. There's one of my favorite pictures of Ajahn Chah right there. It's a wonderful message, isn't it? A way of finding some common ground, connecting. Just checking out the chat here. Ah, here we go. It's great that you brought this up, Andy, because I was meaning to ask if it's appropriate to celebrate Christmas as a Buddhist. Okay. What do you mean by celebrate? There are people who are Christian Buddhists, there are people who are Jewish Buddhists, etc. Right? So maybe they do both. Now maybe you're a Buddhist, but your family's Christian, and they want to go to church and do the all the Christian stuff. Is that celebrating? Right? Because there are some people who kind of go through this thing where they want to you're like, I'm not going to church. I'm not doing this. I'm a Buddhist. I mean, you can. Depends on the situation. But even when I was a Buddhist, I still went to church with my family on the holidays. I mean, my parents are Catholic, Roman Catholic. So until my mom basically went through this sick period that she's in, and COVID, they went to church multiple times a week. Right? So they're devout Catholics. And me being a Buddhist had no impact on their life whatsoever. Like it didn't, there was nothing that I did that was threatening to them or that felt like I was trying to be feeling defensive because, let's say, grace at the meal. And then I was like, well, in Buddhism, we should do this because we're Buddhists. No. That's not how you get along. That's not how things work. So even I've even gone to church with my mom as a monk. I think she might feel a bit more weird about it than I am than I'm about it. It doesn't bother me. Last time I actually, I know I grew up Catholic and I went to Catholic school my whole life, and one of the only priests that I really really liked growing up, he was a young priest. Now he's the head of the church, and not a young priest. He's like maybe 10 years older than me, so mid 50s, late 50s. And I hadn't seen him in 15, 16 years. And after the mass, he's in his robe and I'm in my robe. And I said, hey, Father, how you doing? You don't remember me, but actually, he knows my parents and he knows my whole family for a long time, but he hadn't seen me in many years. I thought that was great. It doesn't bother me. It's like me being around other people of other religions, because I'm firm in my faith and my path. There's nothing to feel defensive about. I can be around other people and talk about religions and different things, and that doesn't bother me. It's okay. If you do feel a defensiveness, well, that's something to observe, something to investigate, right? Something to watch. But yeah, no, celebrate, and I always thought it's nice when like Ajahn brought the what you call it, the I don't think the monastery does this. I mean, although I was there in November, not December, so I don't know. But you see the Buddha, Western Buddhists, the city center, they have the Christmas lights on the altar and things like that. I just thought that was a neat thing. It's kind of like a acknowledging, that we're kind of a lot of us are converts and we come from a certain culture, And there's things like Christmas. I love Christmas lights. They're so beautiful. I not only that, but I also love the you know the Buddhists also love their lights. Let me see if I can show you this on my phone. When I stayed at the Sri Lankan Vihara in Australia, let me see if I can show you this here. Because many of you might not have ever seen anything like this before. Just got to go back. But I quite enjoy these things. Some people might say, oh, it's gaudy or whatever. But I like it. I think it's very nice, cool, and colorful. Let me see. Where is it? Here you go. Can you see it? There's even better ones. This one's okay. But it changes different colors and things like that, different things. I think that's pretty cool. That's like you go to the Sri Lankan Vihara and like go to the front door, and that's like the Buddha statue right there. So I'm all for these kind of colorful displays and things like that. I like it. Especially like bringing the idea, the motif of bringing light to the darkness. Right? That's what it is. That it's the motif of light in the darkness. And we see that in enough similes in Buddhism. We understand what that is. Dharma Learner is a New Yorker. So did we ever meet through Buddhist Insights? Is that how you found out about me? Did you ever come to any of the retreats I did when they were in New York, or? All right. Hello, Visaka. Welcome. The sutras can seem very formulaic when read. Yeah, well, see, this is the thing about the suttas. There is a steep, what do they call it? Not barrier to entry. It's like a learning curve. There's a steep learning curve to the suttas. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it took me before I felt like comfortable and really kind of understanding maybe about 70% of what's in a sutta was probably at least a decade, at least. Right? But I was okay with not really getting it, because I just would read and whatever I could kind of imbibe, I imbibed, and what I couldn't, I just let it go. Right. And as I listened to monastics talk about the suttas and give commentary on the suttas, and I learned more. And then my own insight and developed more and more, and I understood more. That's how it goes. It takes time. All right, Diego has a question here. I believe the Buddha speaks of being reborn in heavenly realms as a benefit, but if the human realm is the most agreeable for the practice of Dhamma and heaven is just greater worldly pleasures, and you'll probably eventually come back here, how to understand these two things? I can only understand that if worldly pleasures are not intrinsically bad. Could you comment on this? What you are seeing is the Buddha talking to different people. That's what you're seeing. You will see the Buddha praise going to heaven, and you will also see basically mockery of a monk who for like basically it's a long story, but like the monks like kind of mock this other monk for his goal is to go to the heavens, kind of a thing. And so you'll see, one of my favorite suttas from the Samyutta Nikaya the beginning of the Samyutta Nikaya, um, they do the Dharma rap battles, right? And a deva comes to the Buddha and says, um, "Short is the human life. One should do deeds of merit that bring about bliss," and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not the Buddha's response, though. Buddha's response is, "Short is a human life. One should drop the world's bait and seek for peace." Right? So he didn't say one should go to heaven, but you have to kind of know your audience. Now you have to kind of know, like, so the Buddha spoke and praised different things depending on the people he spoke to. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to go to heaven. There's nothing wrong with that at all. If life after life, you did more and more and more and more and more good things to be in heaven more and more and more and more times, it's not a bad way to go, right? It's much better than the alternative. Is it as great as fully following the path and becoming awakened? No, of course not. But not everybody's ready for that. It's okay. So that's what you're seeing. You're seeing that the Buddha is talking about different levels to different people. Oh yeah, they're rap battles. The Buddha always drops the mic. That's where that whole drop the mic thing came from. Isn't it like Eminem or something? I don't know but it came from like the rap battles. They're like, yeah, 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 and then they drop the mic. You don't drop the mic harder than one should drop the world's bait and seek for peace. That's like there's just no response to that. You're done. Like the Buddha goes straight to the point, right for the jugular in that one. One should drop the world's bait and seek for peace. It's great. I love it. I keep that in my mind all the time because whenever I'm getting wrapped up in the world's bait, I hear the Buddha say, "Drop the world's bait, seek for peace." But yeah, this is the beginning of the Samyutta Nikaya has just like 50 or 60 pages of that. Deva's coming to the Buddha, making a pronunciation. And sometimes the Buddha agrees and says, "Oh yeah, this is good," but also this. Sometimes he doesn't say anything. He's just like, "Yeah, this is fine." Sometimes he says otherwise. All right, Gregory has a question. What kind of non-Buddhist religious ceremonies might be inappropriate for a lay Buddhist to participate in? I recall suttas having some restrictions for monastics, but I don't recall any for lay folk. Non-Buddhist religious ceremonies. That's such a huge topic. That's such a huge number of possibilities. And what I would say is you have to probably go with your gut and see how your mind takes being part of a ceremony, right? To see if you feel it's appropriate or not. That's what I would have to say. I mean, I don't know because there would be so many types of ceremonies. Like one of the things that I stopped doing. This was before I was a monk. That I stopped doing once I was a Buddhist. I stopped taking the communion at church when I would go with my parents. And it wasn't like out of like, this is stupid. I'm not gonna. Blah, blah, blah. No, it was like, well, it's kind of like hypocritical. Like I'm not a Christian. I probably shouldn't do it. It's like it doesn't seem respectful for me to take it. And it doesn't seem respectful for me to take this because it's not my thing. And that was something that I just saw in myself. I was like, oh well, no, this isn't right. And again, what I saw was it wasn't out of like some kind of negative or aversive thing. It was out of like a respect thing. It was like, no, this is no good. So you have to a person would have to see how they felt about whatever they were participating in. Oh, so okay, we met during the Vasa. All right. All right. I think I might actually know who this is. All right. Very good. So we've come to the end of the chat, it looks like. Why don't we read a sutta? Let's see. I'm wondering, it might be a little bit too late. I want to read actually one of the hardest suttas. This is one of like across the board, it's considered one of the hardest to understand suttas. Even like you talk to like a Bhante Sujata or whatever, like, they will say that this is a very complicated, hard to understand sutta. Right? There's lots of views on it, lots of debates on it, lots of all kinds of stuff. But I don't know if we have time for it now because we're at 8:40 already. It's a big one. Oh, for those of you who now you're thinking like, well, which one is it? Which one is it? It's Majjhima Nikaya number 1, the root of all things. Hello, Jayanta. Welcome. Let's read number 4. Number 4 is smaller. And it's one of my favorite suttas. Or is it smaller? A little bit smaller. But it's a bit easier so we can go through it quicker. Actually, you know what? Never mind. I was thinking about reading Fear and Dread, but I'm like, this is kind of like an upbeat, like holiday thing. I don't want to go Fear and Dread. Um, but that's also a great one. But I have a better one. One Might Wish, Majjhima Nikaya number 6. Let's read this one. Hello, Jim. Welcome. Okay. Share screen. So I have heard. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Savatthi. Let me post the link in the chat just in case anybody wants it. In Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's monastery. There the Buddha addressed the mendicants. Mendicants, venerable sir, they replied. The Buddha said this: Mendicants, live by ethical precepts and the monastic code. Live restrained in the monastic code, conducting yourself well and seeking alms in suitable places. Seeing danger in the slightest fault, keep the rules you've undertaken. And then it goes into this somebody might wish. This is something you see in a couple places in the suttas. It's actually a very important framework to understand. A mendicant might wish, may I be liked and approved by my spiritual companions, respected and admired. So let them fulfill their precepts, be committed to the inner serenity of the heart, not neglect absorption, be endowed with discernment and frequent empty huts. So you'll see that somebody will say, somebody might wish. And the Buddha will say, this is not to be had by wishing. It might be that someone may have the wish, may I not grow old, may I not get sick, may I be rich, may I this, may I that. These are not to be had by wishing. So the first one here, it may be that a monk wants to be viewed in such and such a way. Well, how do you do that? Well, live ethically, follow the monastic rules, and don't neglect to practice, and that will arise. Right? So there's this idea, this concept of things are not just magically happening. You can't just wish for something and then it happens. You actually have to set the groundwork for it to arise. You have to put in the work for it to happen. A mendicant might wish, may I receive robes, alms, food, lodgings, and medicines and supplies for the sick. So let them fulfill their precepts, be committed to inner serenity of the heart, not neglect absorption, be endowed with discernment and frequent empty huts. A mendicant might wish, may the services of those whose robes, alms, food, lodgings, and medicines and supplies for the sick I enjoy be very fruitful and beneficial for them. So this is even wishing, may the people who are so generous to me, may this bear fruit for them. And it's still the same thing. Right, this is also a very important thing for a monk to reflect on. How do you repay the gratitude you feel for the generosity of the people who support you? Be a good monk. Practice, follow the precepts, stay by the rules, develop yourself. Don't neglect the practice. Mendicant might wish, when deceased family and relatives who have passed away recollect me with a confident mind, may this be very fruitful and beneficial for them. So let them fulfill their precepts. A mendicant might wish, may I prevail over desire and discontent, and may desire and discontent not prevail over me. May I live having mastered desire and discontent wherever they arose, so let them fulfill their precepts. A mendicant might wish, may I prevail over fear and dread, and may fear and dread not prevail over me. May I live having mastered fear and dread wherever they arose, so let them fulfill their precepts. A mendicant might wish, may I get the 4 jhanas, blissful meditations in the present life that belong to the higher mind, when I want, without trouble or difficulty, so let them fulfill the precepts. A mendicant might wish, may I have direct meditative experience of the peaceful liberations that are formless, transcending form, so let them fulfill their precepts. A mendicant might wish, may I, with the ending of the 3 fetters, become a stream enterer, not liable to be reborn in the underworld, bound for awakening, so let them fulfill their precepts. A mendicant might wish, may I, with the ending of 3 fetters, and the weakening of greed, hatred, and delusion, become a once returner, coming back to this world only once, then making an end of suffering. So let them fulfill their precepts. A mendicant might wish, may I, with the ending of the 5 lower fetters, be reborn spontaneously and become extinguished there, not liable to to return from that world, i.e., anagami, a non-returner. So let them fulfill their precepts. A mendicant might wish, may I wield the many kinds of psychic power, multiplying myself and becoming one again, appearing and disappearing, going unimpeded through wall, a rampart, or a mountain, as if through space, diving in and out of the earth, as if it were water, walking on water as if it were earth, flying cross-legged through the sky like a bird, touching and stroking with my hand the sun and the moon, so mighty and powerful, controlling the body as far as the Brahma will. So let them fulfill their precepts. A mendicant might wish, may I understand the minds of other beings and individuals, having comprehended them with my mind. May I understand a mind with greed as a mind with greed, a mind without greed as a mind without greed. A mind with hate as a mind with hate, as a mind without hate as a mind without hate. A mind with delusion as a mind with delusion, and a mind without delusion as a mind without delusion. Constricted mind is constricted, and scattered mind is scattered. Expansive mind is expansive mind, and unexpansive mind is unexpansive mind. Mind that is not supreme as mind that is not supreme, and mind that is supreme as mind that is supreme. Mind immersed in samadhi is mind immersed in samadhi, and mind not immersed in samadhi is mind not immersed in samadhi. Freed mind is freed mind, and unfreed mind is unfreed mind. So let them fulfill their precepts. If those of you who are skilled and knowledgeable in Satipatthana, the 4 foundations of mindfulness, you might recognize that this is Chitta Nupassana. This is the same list of the types of mind seen that you investigate in Satipatthana and the foundations of mindfulness. When you know your own mind, you know the mind of others. A mendicant might wish, may I recollect many kinds of past lives. That is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 1,000, 100,000 rebirths. Many eons of the world contracting, many eons of the world expanding, many eons of the world contracting and expanding. May I remember, there I was named this, my clan was that, I looked like this and that was my food. This was how I felt pleasure and pain, and that was how my life ended. When I passed away from that place, I was reborn somewhere else. There too, I was named this, my clan was that. I looked like this, and that was my food. This was how I felt pleasure and pain, and that was how my life ended. When I passed away from that place, I was reborn here. May I thus recollect many kinds of past lives with features and details. So let them fulfill their precepts. A mendicant might wish, with clairvoyance that is purified and superhuman, may I see sentient beings passing away and being reborn. Inferior and superior, beautiful and ugly, in a good place and a bad place, and understand how sentient beings are reborn according to their deeds. These dear beings did bad things by way of body, speech, and mind. They spoke ill of the noble ones. They had a wrong view, and they chose to act out of that wrong view. When their body breaks up after death, they're reborn in a place of loss, a bad place, the underworld, hell. These dear beings, however, did good things by way of body, speech, and mind. They never spoke ill of the noble ones. They had right view, and they chose to act out of that right view. When their body breaks up after death, they're reborn in a good place, a heavenly realm. And so, with clairvoyance that is purified and superhuman, may I see sentient beings passing away and being reborn. Inferior and superior, beautiful and ugly, in a good place and a bad place. May I understand how sentient beings are reborn according to their deeds. So let them fulfill their precepts. A mendicant might wish, may I realize the undefiled freedom of heart and freedom by wisdom in this very life, and live having realized it with my own insight due to the ending of defilements. So let them fulfill their precepts. Be committed to inner secure serenity of the heart, not neglect absorption. Be endowed with discernment and frequent empty huts. Mendicants live by ethical precepts in the monastic code. Live restrained in the monastic code, conducting yourself well and seeking alms in suitable places. Seeing danger in the slightest fault, keep the rules you've undertaken. That's what I said, and this is why I said it. This is what the Buddha said. Satisfied, the mendicants were happy with what the Buddha said. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, Metika. Have a good night. Metika is currently a resident at Birken Monastery with Ajahn Sona. Still surprising she's actually able to come on with us and attend these sessions, to be honest with you. But that's pretty cool. All right. We have some time. Let's see if we can do another One Might Wish sutta. Because I believe there are multiple. Yeah, here we go. There's a couple. We just read this one. Let's read this other one. Oh, looks like it's basically the same one. I wonder what it would be called for the other way to see the other ones that I mentioned. But alas, for now, I think we can give it a stop. Ajahn Sona and Jayasara dual live stream win. I don't know. Maybe never. We technically both have the same preceptor. At least his first ordination was with Bhante G. I think he got reordained in Dhammayut in the Thai forest later, which is pretty typical. That's pretty normal to have to kind of reordain if you're a monk. I've never actually even met Ajahn Sona before, so that would have to probably come first. All right. Chat's pretty quiet, so why don't we do? It's almost 9. Why don't we do our meditation now? I think it would be good to do our meditation. And then after that, we'll see if there's maybe we'll do some sutta roulette after the meditation. See what comes up. Maybe read some Dhammapada verses if anybody has any questions, and then after that we'll close out. We are halfway through this week's Dhammapalooza. So set up your body in whatever stable and comfortable position works for you. Spend some time scanning through the body, starting from the feet up to the head. You do this by paying attention, putting your focus on the part of the body and observing any sensation or feeling that arises. Start with your feet. Where's the feeling of the feet pressing against the floor? Moving up through the ankles into the calves. Up through the knees and into the thighs. Up through to the hips and pelvis. Paying close attention to the hips and pelvis and how they're positioned, how that impacts the rest of your posture. Moving up the spine through the abdomen and the chest. Checking that the spine is not leaning or slouching left or right, back or forward. This is important sitting on the cushion, but also important sitting in a chair or the couch. Make sure that your back and spine are in the neutral position, allowing for the body to breathe easily without any constriction. Up through to the shoulders, checking that they're hanging loosely, not tight. Down through to the elbows and hands, observing how their position impacts your posture, your spine. And finally up to the head, checking that the head is balanced, chin parallel to the floor. You're done setting up your body in a comfortable and stable position. Let the body go and take 3 deep breaths. And then let the breath go. From here on in, try not to manipulate or control the breath in any way. The body has been breathing from the moment you were born. Will continue to do so until the second you die. Doesn't need you to do its job. Your job is to simply observe, investigate, and abide with the breath. Follow as the body breathes in and out. Since we opened this session with a chant on the benefits of metta, I think it appropriate that we develop limitless goodwill for all beings. Remember that the practice of metta involves both words and visuals. The words and visuals are a means to an end. They're not the end in and of themselves. The purpose of using these words and visuals, reflecting on these things, is to develop a mind free of ill will and warm-hearted feelings of friendship and goodwill towards all beings. We'll practice some exalted release of metta, release of the mind by metta, where we'll start in a small area and grow our area that we pervade our metta in ever larger, including ever more larger number of beings. Let's start with the person whom you may have the most agitation towards, the most judgment towards, maybe even hatred towards. That person is ourselves. If you like, you can visualize a sphere of metta surrounding you, just a little bit larger than your body. As we say the words, fill that sphere up, pervade it with your goodwill and friendliness. Repeat the words. May I find happiness. May I find peace. May I live in friendship with all beings. May I find release from suffering. If you like, you could also visualize an image of yourself in front of you, like looking in the mirror. You can say the words towards that image. May I find happiness. May I find peace. May I live in friendship with all beings. May I find release from suffering. When you practice exalted release of metta on your own, you can spend as long as you need to at this part, really filling up your sphere with metta, giving that goodwill towards yourself. And then when you're ready, you spread the sphere out to encompass the entirety of whatever building you're in, house, apartments, wherever. Whatever beings there may be in that building. Humans, animal, insect, heavenly beings, etc. May all of us in this building find happiness. May all of us find peace. May all of us live in friendship with each other. May all of us find release from suffering. If you pay attention to the words, this is a wish that a person finds. As we know from the sutta we just read, these things are not magically to be gained by wishing. A person must find happiness, peace, must work at being friendly with all beings. So when we say these words for ourselves and others, it's an aspiration, a wish, an encouragement that we understand what is right and do what we need to do good to be able to set the groundwork for these to arise in our lives. These are not to be had simply by mere wishing to appear out of thin air. Spread your sphere to encompass the entirety of whatever town or village you're in, or city. May all of us in this village, town, or city find happiness. May all of us find peace. May all of us live in friendship with each other. May all of us find release from suffering. Spread your sphere further to encompass whatever country you're in. May all of us in this country find happiness. May all of us find peace. May all of us live in friendship with each other. May all of us find release from suffering. Spread your sphere to encompass whatever continent you're on, or large grouping of land. May all of us on this continent find happiness. May all of us find peace. May all of us live in friendship with each other. May all of us find release from suffering. Spread your sphere to encompass the entirety of this earth, our home planet. Trillions of beings, human, animal, insect, beings in the sea, the air, the land, small blue dots in a sea of black, teeming with life, from the smallest to the largest. May all of us on planet Earth find happiness. May all of us find peace. May all of us live in friendship with each other. May all of us find release from suffering. Now spread your sphere out into the cosmos to encompass the entirety of our home galaxy, the Milky Way. Hundreds of billions of stars and planets. Who knows how many beings out there? May all of us in the Milky Way find happiness. May all of us find peace. May all of us live in friendship with each other. May all of us find release from suffering. Spread your sphere out into the cosmos, out into infinity to encompass all beings in existence in this universe. If there are other universes, dimensions, whatever there may be, wherever sentient beings may be, siblings in suffering. May all of us, everywhere, find happiness. May all of us find peace. May all of us live in friendship with each other. May all of us find release from suffering. Slowly open your eyes. Become aware of the room around you. Moving from the internal back out to the external. The live stream, Dhamma friends in the chats. Reflecting on how the mind has changed from before the meditation to after, and any experiences you've had during the meditation, triumphs, struggles, insights. It's always good to spend a little bit of time reflecting on these. Our numbers fluctuated during the meditation, but we see Diego has left. Elaine has a sort of question, or at least wanting a clarification. So the point of the last sutta, stop wishing for things and create the conditions for your wishes manifesting. Basically, yes. Right? It's not necessarily that actually, Anthony, perfect timing, because actually in this sutta that we just read, it reminded me of something of a discussion we had while we were doing our walks at Empty Cloud. So you should check out this sutta where the Buddha says if one wishes to have psychic powers, what one should do. I remember we had a discussion about that. But yeah, so this is this sutta is pointing towards reason why Buddha has to be so clear about this is because you'll see that there's doctrines where it says, well, anything that happens to you, well, it just happens. It's just, there's no cause for it. There's no cause or reason why a person is corrupted. There's no cause or reason why a person is purified. It just happens, just comes. So no, the Buddha has to be very clear that there is a cause. There is a reason. There's a way these things work. They don't just magically happen. Sin, hello, Sin. I hope you're still here with us. Better late than never. Hope your demon puppy is not causing you too much of a struggle. All right. Why don't we read some Dhammapada? I think we can read some Dhammapada. Then maybe we'll do some of Sutta Roulette. But it's been a while since we really read the Dhammapada. Looks like we are on the chapter of hell. Naraya. Hello, Audio War Work Visions. Welcome. It's a name I don't believe I've seen before. The liar goes to states of woe. Also, he who, having done wrong, says, I did not do it. Men of base actions both. On departing, they share the same destiny in the other world. This I did not do it always brings a giggle to me because I can remember being a kid, right? Maybe you had siblings, you saw the same thing. And like a parent would come and say, who did this? And all of the children say, I didn't do it. Right? And most of the children are probably innocent. Maybe one's guilty, or maybe they're all guilty. Who knows? Uh, and you don't know who actually did it because they all say, I didn't do it. That's pretty funny. How many times am I going to hell now for saying I didn't do it as a child? Although I'm pretty sure most of the time I actually didn't do it. I was a pretty goody two shoes child. There are many evil characters and uncontrolled men wearing the saffron robe. It's monks. There are many evil characters and uncontrolled men, monks. These wicked men will be born in states of woe because of their evil deeds. That's even worse. The Buddha calls that a thief in the Dhamma. Somebody who is a wicked, evil person who's a monastic. That's really bad karma. That is not good karma. That's way worse than saying I didn't do it. It would be better to swallow a red-hot iron ball, blazing like fire, than as an immoral and uncontrolled monk to eat the alms of the people. So this is one of those places where, and if you've heard me enough, if you've spoken to me enough, you've heard me enough over a long period of time, I talk about this. But mostly this is almost always seen in the Vinaya. But you do see it in other places. This is the Buddha. The Buddha will tell us that there are things that you do in this life that it would be better if you would have just died horribly. than to have done this, because it will be worse off for you in the future. All right, so the Buddha here is saying, it'd be better if you just swallowed this red hot iron ball, which will basically kill you, right? Than to live immoral and uncontrolled as a monk, eating the alms fruit of others. You see this in the video often. The Buddha is like, foolish man, it would be better if you were to die horribly in some way than to have done this. Actually, the very first rule is often brought up as like an idea of misogyny, right? The first rule for the monastics, project number 1, is no sexual, sexual intercourse. And so the Buddha says that it'd be better that you put your male organ in the mouth of a poisonous snake than to have had intercourse with this woman. And people say, oh, that's being so misogynistic. No. The Buddha is saying, you're a monk. It would be better if you basically died than to have done this, because it's not good for your karma. Right? That's the point of these things. Right? The Buddha is pointing towards the fact that this is not the only life. There is rebirth. And this is another thing. Anybody who says, like in the sutras, the Buddha doesn't actually talk rebirth, this is easily dismissed. All right? Because we even see this as one example of those things. The Buddha is not only looking out for your present self, he's looking out for your future self. It's better that you died horribly now and suffered through that than to have committed these unskillful things that would be worse off for you in the future. This is also one of those things where you can understand, like we have the empathy, like, oh, somebody's suffering, well, we should put them out of their misery. Well, should you? Yeah, well, we're thinking like right now, it might be better that they don't suffer this. It might be better that they die, but how do you know? How do you know? You don't. It might actually be better for them in the long run that they do suffer through this. And I know to some people that sounds heartless or cruel or whatever, but that's the nature of life. This is the nature of life, is that we suffer. And so is it really better? No, I don't know about that. I don't know about, it might be better that we don't kill somebody off because we think that they're suffering. Well, continuing on. 4 misfortunes befall the reckless man who consorts with another's wife: acquisition of demerit, disturbed sleep, ill repute, and rebirth in states of woe. So right here we have 4 things. 3 of those are in this life, and then the 4th is in the next life, or in a future life. Right? So again, thinking about this life and future lives. Such a man acquires demerit and an unhappy birth in the future. Brief is the pleasure of the frightened man and woman, and the king imposes heavy punishment. Hence, let no man consort with another's wife. Just as a kusa grass wrongly handled cuts the hand, even so a recluse's life wrongly lived drags one to states of woe. Any loose act, any corrupt observance, any life of questionable celibacy, none of these bear much fruit. If anything is to be done, let one do it with sustained vigor. A lax monastic life stirs up the dust of passions all the more. An evil deed is better left undone, for such a deed torments one afterwards. There you go. But a good deed is better done, doing which one repents not later. Just as a border city is closely guarded both within and without, even so guard yourself. Do not let slip this opportunity for spiritual growth. For those who let slip this opportunity grieve indeed when consigned to hell. Those who are ashamed of what they should not be ashamed of, and are not ashamed of what they should be ashamed of, upholding false views, they go to states of woe. Now, isn't this interesting? Isn't this interesting? This actually has an interesting corollary to a lot of, seems like today, a lot of people are ashamed of things that they shouldn't be ashamed of, and not ashamed of things they probably should be ashamed of. And both of those lead to hell. Who are ashamed of what they should not be ashamed of. It's a really interesting line right there. I mean, for most of us, it makes more, the not ashamed of what they should be ashamed of makes more sense. But this is kind of like one of those lines you see in the Dhammapada where the Buddha says one should not sacrifice one's own welfare for the sake of another, no matter how great the need. Knowing what is good, one should practice well for one's own welfare. Right? Some counterintuitive things, just like maybe it's better for somebody to actually suffer instead of just killing them off. Counterintuitive, but possibly right and better. Those who see something to fear where there is nothing to fear, and see nothing to fear when there is something to fear, upholding false views, they go to states of woe. Another interesting one. Being fearful when there is nothing to fear. And again, the second line here is important here. This line, upholding false views. It's because if you are ashamed of what you shouldn't be ashamed of, or afraid of what you shouldn't be afraid of, this is still a basis for wrong view, which is a basis for the hells. Those who imagine evil where there is none, and do not see evil where it is, upholding false views, they go to states of woe. Those who discern the wrong as wrong and the right as right, upholding right views, they go to realms of bliss. All right. Now let's go to the next Vaga. Now this is an interesting one. If you see on the bottom here, so the word is Naga, right? Naga here is translated as dragons. Click on it. It's translated as the elephant. And Naga is also translated as snake. All three of these are valid. So Bhante Sujato translates it as dragon. Also, Bhante Sudaso translates it as dragon. And I like it mostly because I'm a fantasy nerd and I'm partial to dragons. So I am partial to translating it as dragon. I like it. But this is the Naga, right? This is the heavenly being. Devas, Nagas, and Yakas. Naga is also an epithet for an awakened being. an elephant, like a bull elephant, like the greatest of land beings. And so it's all kind of like an epithet for the greatest, the best. So, as an elephant in the battlefield withstands arrows shot from bows all around, even so shall I endure abuse. There are many indeed who lack virtue. So he's like, well, yeah, there's a lot of people who are lack virtue, so I'm going to endure a lot of abuse. How do I want to do it? I'll be like the battlefield elephant, the tank of its day, right? Enduring abuse. A tamed elephant is led into a crowd, and the king mounts a tamed elephant. Best among men is the subdued one who endures abuse. Excellent are well-trained mules, thoroughbred Sindhu horses, and noble tusker elephants. But better still is the man who has subdued himself. Not by these mounts, however, would one go to the untrodden land of Nibbana. As one who is self-tamed goes by his own tamed and well-controlled mind. Musty during rut, the tusker named Dhammapalooza is uncontrollable. So the rut is the time of the year where the mating season, right? So it's the men, the males of various mammalian groups like deer, elephants, or whatever. They go uncontrollable, right, with their lust. Musty during the month, the tusker is uncontrollable. Held in captivity, the tusker does not touch a morsel, but only longingly calls to mind the elephant forest. When a man is sluggish and gluttonous, sleeping and rolling around in bed like a fat domestic pig, that sluggard undergoes rebirth again and again. Being lazy in bed, rolling around like a pig in the mud, like a fat domestic pig. That's great. Formerly, this mind wandered about as it liked, where it wished, and according to its pleasure. But now I shall thoroughly master it with wisdom, as a mahout controls with his ankus an elephant in rut. Delight in heedfulness. Guard well your thoughts. Draw yourself out of this bog of evil, even as an elephant draws himself out of the mud. If for company you find a wise and prudent friend who leads a good life, you should, overcoming all impediments, keep his company joyously and mindfully. And now we have very famous lines here. If you find a good, wise friend, a Kalyanamitta, you should do whatever needs to be done, overcoming all impediments. Keep their company. If for company you cannot find a wise and prudent friend who leads a good life, then like a king who leaves behind a conquered kingdom, or like a lone elephant in the elephant forest, you should go your way alone. Better it is to live alone. There is no fellowship with a fool. Live alone and do no evil. Be carefree like an elephant in the elephant forest. Good are friends when need arises. Good is contentment when just what one has. Good is contentment with just what one has. Good is merit when life is at its end. And good is the abandoning of all suffering. In this world, good is good it is to serve one's mother, good it is to serve one's father, good it is to serve the monks, and good it is to serve the holy men. Good is virtue until life's end. Good is faith that is steadfast. Good is the acquisition of wisdom. Good is the avoidance of evil. All right. A rare example of nibbana compared to a lamb placed. Yes, very true. Okay, friends. Well, we're a couple of minutes early, but I think it's good. This is a good time for us to end for the night. So we'll do business, and then we'll do the final sharing of merits and call it a night. Let me get the banners going. All right, friends. So, if you are finding this stream, and this is, both obviously maybe somebody who's on here live is new, but I think more people probably watch it after than live, which tends to be any live stream across YouTube. That tends to happen on any channel. Um, and so, if you are coming across this for the first time, you'd like to find out more or be able to be notified when new things happen, you can go to the website on the bottom here, Maggasekha, MAGGASEKHA.org. This is my website. You can, on this website, on the top right, you can put in your email. And then anytime I posting about a retreat, a live stream, an event, whatever I'm doing, you'll get an email so that you're always kept up to date. Same thing on YouTube. You click subscribe, click the little bell thing, click on notifications all, and then anytime something is coming up on YouTube, you'll get an email so that you can always be in touch. And we also have an online community on program called Discord based on the early Buddhist texts. We both study and practice according to these early texts, the suttas. This is not a general Buddhist community. It is one based on the early texts. So if that is something that you find interesting, you can check us out by sending an email to the email given, which is the Maggasekha official email. If you have any questions or anything to talk to Maggasekha, you can send it to that email. And then we can give you an invite. All right, friends, let's do our sharing of merit. Oh, well, let's do. So Dhammapalooza is every Monday, as long as I am in a place and able to actually do it. Monday nights, 8 a.m. New York time, Dhammapalooza. And we also do, I do Insight Timer. If you're on Insight Timer, Saturdays at 3 p.m. New York time, do an hour and a half on Insight Timer. And while I'm in places I can do it, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. New York time, we do Morning Monastery Experience, which is a half-hour session of, well, what is like a morning puja at a monastery, right? Where it's just doing precepts, doing some chanting, and then a little Dhamma talk, right? Starting your day with a little bit of Dhamma, which is always good to do something like this. Okay, friends, let's share our merits. Dukkha patta chane dukkha, bhaya patta chane bhaya, sokha patta chane sokha, hantu sabbe pipaniyo, etta vata cha mehi, sampadang punya sampadang, sabbe deva anumodantu, sabba sampatti siddhya, akasata chabumata, deva naga mahidika, punyang tang anumoditva, charang rakantu sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit of ours that we've thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu. Okay, friends. Well, Sukhi Hotu, may you be happy and at ease. Practice well and be well. And may you have a spiritually successful and peaceful practice until we meet again. Have a good week.